Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Route to Freedom. I'm Bill Burch, and this is my wonderful wife, Sharon.
Hi, great to be back.
And today we're going to talk about the time when we purchased our pool business. We're going to look at what it was like just when we were closing on it, and then what those first 4 to 8 weeks looked like when we got in there. Now, Sharon, you and I I think we did a pretty good job of splitting our responsibilities, what your category was, what my category is, what we led in. Do you mind sharing what the landscape was like going in for you and in your position, and then what that first, I guess we can do that first, and then we'll come back and talk about what it was like when we were actually in the weeds integrating it. But
yeah, that's a great way to do it. Yeah. Due to our strengths and our expertise, I focused on admin, software, systems, automation, and how we could take what we knew was I think you called it a legacy pool business, a kind word for they were still using paper and sticky notes, clipboards, and dry erase boards all over the place. So my goal, lots of them. So we wanted to, bring it into the 21st century, utilize the tools that are now available, which meant finding pool service software that was the best fit for our situation, and keeping in mind that we knew we would be servicing pools that the cell signal would be very poor. So that was definitely narrowed it down to which software can work when you lose a cell signal, but you don't lose data. So that was one big component. And then it needed to integrate with QuickBooks Online and get QuickBooks set up so that we would have the financial reports that we needed, and it would integrate with the software and then our other communication tools for our team and with customers. So that was kind of my role going into it. And then that next component after selecting that and setting it all up was, how do you train the staff and not lose them or overwhelm them? So we'll save that for maybe phase 2 or something else. But that was my piece of it. That was a deal. And you had to do it carefully, or you would have really frustrated team members who were already a little nervous about new ownership in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the way it worked. As for me, I didn't have that. I was more interested in the due diligence and understanding the bigger picture of the operation. But yeah, the first thing was just to learn it, because we'd never owned a pool before. I've never tested chemicals like that before. I had no idea what anything was. So yeah, hitting the ground running, it was just getting a good grip on the landscape. And then, of course, moving forward, that first 60 days, actually, there's a lot of different things, but part of it was training with you, which brings us back to what did you do? We closed and now we're there, and you've made your decision on software and how it's going to work. What were those first 60 days like?
Well, I would say similar. And I'm also glad that you're saying 60 days, because I think there is, or could be, an assumption that you can do that change in fewer days. But when you're dealing with humans in the mix and being yourself, number one, learning not only the business and how it operates, but how that particular team of people operates, and where their strengths are, or where they get frustrated easily. And that takes time. It takes spending time with them. It spends riding around in a truck. So I remember riding around in a truck with one of the team members, so I could learn the business, and then that would help me build out the software and customize it in a way that made sense with what they normally did, but then could also be a training tool for new pool techs that we brought on board. And that was really important. And it not only helped me learn the business, but it helped me develop a relationship with those pool techs, so that they trusted me. We developed a relationship so that when I did go, okay, we're going to try this new software, I would love for you to give it a test run. I used some words like that they were cool with it, because we were, it's not just, And I purposely, I might be jumping ahead a moment, but whenever introducing new technology, I always have a couple of big things that I always do. One, I try to identify the person on the team that when I mention, hey, we're going to try new software, they light up like, oh, cool. And I engage them first, because they know the business and they're excited to learn it. So together we could kind of build it out. And then I also identify the one that rolled their eyes, or, it had big panic, and it was like, new tech. And so stage one was me figuring it out with the one that was open and willing and excited, then refining it, seeing what challenges did that person run into, then circling back when I was like, okay, I think we have all the bugs worked out. I think we figured it out. And then coming to that person and working with them very personally, one baby step at a time, one success at a time. Yeah.
And eventually everybody, it wasn't too long that everybody was fully on board and would never want to go back to.
Yeah. But yeah. And that's exactly right. It took about 2 months.
We were using the techs, each tech in their truck had a clipboard and a paper. And every time you showed up at a property, you had to write down who it was, what time you got there, what you did, what
chemicals you put in,
how much you put in the pool, and all of that was supposed to go on a piece of paper. And
with horrible handwriting.
I don't think we had a single tech that was excited about writing stuff down. So you didn't know what you were going to get or what was going on. Then that would come back and it would go to the office manager, who would then try to decipher it, and then was calling them all day trying to clarify what they'd put on their sheet the day before if they weren't off. And even if they were off, she'd call them anyway. And then a lot of times they didn't want to answer the phone on their day off. So yeah, that was a mess. So it really worked out great in the end. You did a fabulous job on that. So this first, I remember that first, I believe you had gone in with me, and it was probably an hour before daylight. And when everybody first got there, I have this image of dark windows. And I remember the employee that was like, oh yeah, I'm all in on this. This is awesome. And then the others were like, what? It's like 5 o'clock in the morning and you're telling me I got to learn new stuff,
new software.
Yeah.
I clean pools. I don't care about software.
I knew this was going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a big deal.
It was a big deal. But as soon as, again, we were very strategic about rolling it out. But then once I discovered, oh, you mean I don't have to write things on a clipboard anymore? And I'm not getting phone calls anymore. I can just do my job. Once they start to see how it worked, then there was no going back. And if we had told them, let's do clipboards again, they would have revolted.
That's right. I would have revolted because I would have been the one in the office trying to look at those sheets, figuring out what the heck was going on. And that was, that really was a good chunk of my 30 to 60 days. Actually, I was a trainee with you learning how that system worked because I was working with the staff directly all the time. And plus, as I took over, I think immediately I tried to establish myself as the owner, and I wasn't afraid to be there. And I was going to be there before the first employee showed up. I was going to be there well after the last employee left. I was going to be there every single day so that everybody knew that I was serious about it. And while Sharon has the capacity to really focus on things and concentrate on them for like 12 or 16 hours solid, I can't do that. I'm a 15 minutes to 30 minutes on one thing, go do the next thing for 15 to 30. I'm a juggler. So I was there early, working with staff for a little bit, working on software a little bit, going outside to work on the yard a little bit, work on this truck a little bit, figure out how we're going to do inventory a little bit, talk to customers a little. That's just me. I'm a little all over the place. But a big part of that was that software, because I would come in to sit down to work. I'd get a call from a customer and they'd have something that was wrong. And if I had the data, which could fit in that software, I could do a quote for whatever the replacement equipment was or the equipment repair. And that software made it easy for me to fill that out, send it to the customer. They'd send an email back, approve, or I get a notification that it was approved in our software, immediately turned it into the job, which immediately could be scheduled. It was fabulous. But that was a huge part of those first 30 to 60 days for me, was those systems. You were really firming up those systems hard and fast. And I was trying to learn them and utilize them in the field all the time. And Sharon and I call fairly constantly. It was my one-way call system. I call Sharon. She never called me. She never really needed anything. And I would call up and, okay, here's the situation I'm in. How do I do this in the software? Oh, okay. Are you at the computer? Yep. All right, go here, click on this, do that, do this. Now you should be able to see it here. Can you see that? Yeah, I can see that. All right, well, how do I know? How am I tracking my receivable? How do I know if I'm getting paid? How do I know if I'm, okay, go here. So it was a great teamwork thing, because she was the foundation that everything was built on. And then I was part of the chaotic tornado that's going on out there in the real world, dealing with the customers and the techs and when they call in, or the customers call with urgent needs, or the weather's just suddenly turned terrible, or we live in a hurricane area. So within 6 months, we were dealing with some pretty serious weather. But it actually worked out pretty well. There are things that do happen thinking about it beyond just software and basic systems, because we did have some staff that were not a good fit. Sharon made it sound like we had this wonderful crew and we were able to keep everybody. That was not the case. Of course, we had to go through not knowing a lot about it. It's like, okay, how do we score this person in our head or recognize whether they're going to be keepers or not? Because a couple of them were just straight up bad behaving people. And the owner that we purchased the business from was older and more tolerant. The business had been very stable for a long time, but not really growing, not improving. The margins weren't what they should be. And those were things we were looking for in a business. We were looking for places we could apply our skills and gain some growth from those. But it was a little tough at first, not knowing for sure how to rate that, because we had one staff member in particular, one of the more memorable ones for me, that I think felt that they were in a position of power and they could misbehave and demand more of me. And I would just have to do that. I'd have to submit because I was new. And that didn't go well. Went well for me. I think that was my first real, I'm pretty confident. I know what I'm doing. You need to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And I mean, to that point, it was the systems, not only my systems that I was setting up in the software, but the systems that you were setting up, Bill, on the grounds. So I think before there wasn't a way, it was very easy for pool techs to sneakily go clean a few pools on the side and use some company chemicals and nobody would know because there was no system in place. But with the systems, I've already mentioned the systems I set up, but then the kind of the physical systems that you set up at the site of how much inventory is on your truck and how much is on there the next day, those types of things. And then also organizing, because it was a pretty chaotic. Pretty chaotic. So I was organizing software systems. You were organizing physical systems, which made it less easy for somebody to just grab something and go, nobody will miss it. But you went in and organized the place physically. So it was very obvious. Wait, there were 5 bottles of that. Now there's only 4. Where did that 5th one go? Yeah. So it's that combination of the person on site, you, and myself working in the software.
Well, it was just such a great team effort. And I know a lot of people that are watching or that do watch this probably aren't in the same situation. Sharon and I have been married a very long time, and this pool business was the first time that we'd actually brought our personal resources to force together as a solid team. We're both very A personality. We're both very driven. She's thinking about a conversation we had just before this podcast. We're both very strong in the way we do things, and sometimes we can have I can feel confused, not knowing, all right, how do I get to be a good husband and a co-leader of a business at the same time? When when she's leading, she's leading, and when I'm leading, I'm leading. But in this case, it actually worked pretty well. But it would be easily doable if you know what your personal strengths are, and then you hire that other person to do, like Sharon could have purchased it and hired a guy that's just really good with hands-on operation stuff as a manager. I could have purchased it on my own and then hired somebody that was really good with admin, software, tech, office management type of stuff. And you just look for that skill set. And I would recommend that you do that. But back to the story, I used our software, both of the probably many. I only know of the 2 primary pool service softwares out there and how they work. But I would guess that most of the pool service software apps have many of the same key performance indicators in them. So I could look to see how long, pick a tech, what's the average amount of time it takes them to do a pool? What's the amount, what chemicals do they sell? I can tell you exactly how much in dollars in chemicals they put in pools yesterday, the last week, the last month, whatever time frame I wanted to give it. It would break all of that down for me. And that helped a lot. And with poor performing, it also has a rating system in there. So the customer's rating the tech every time that they go in. I think that's a common feature. And I would have a bad behaving tech, and I could just tell them they were, hey, man, I can tell you're spending 40% less time on average. I could tell them to the minute or to the second how much less time they spend at a pool than the average tech did on our business. There's no way you can do pools that fast.
Yeah.
And they'd be kind of like, wow, do you really know how long I spend in these? Yeah, I've got a report right here. I can show you every single pool you've been at, what time you started, what time you stopped.
Yep.
Oh, well, I don't always start my app on time. Well, that's a problem too. So I could operate with so much more confidence having that software in place and knowing what I was doing, even cash flow, even though I'm not great with QuickBooks, which is an understatement. I could call you and say, hey, listen, I need to see this report. I need to see this. And from prior business experience, I had office, fairly substantial office staff that did all that kind of stuff. And I could walk into the CFO's office and go, hey, I need this report, and I need this chart, and I need this to look like this for this particular business that we've got. So I could call Sharon and do basically that same thing. And she'd say, all right, click on this, click on that. Here's this report. And if you want, you might want to look at these two. Well, all right. I'd look at them and, it's just wonderful. Those receivables, especially on our commercial pools, that was a deal because, you had set up a great system for customers to pay us automatically at the first of the month on their credit card. So no calls, no invoices, no delays.
Well, very few. It's not a magic world, but reduced.
So, there were you could count on one hand how many people we had to work with on the residential side, which is the biggest part of our business. But our commercial accounts could get out of hand. Yeah. And we had some receivables, and they can stack up pretty fast, especially if you have a commercial pool that has some equipment problems that you're doing a lot of repairs. And I mean, you can get into them pretty deep, pretty quickly, and then they have a little trouble or whatever. That was more on the privately owned hotel, motel, resort type thing than the corporate. But anyway, so that's what it was like. So that first 30, 60 days is a little rough. What would you say was the roughest part for you?
For me?
Yeah. What was the thing that caused you the most stress in those first 60 days, that if you were a little stressed out about it?
I don't know if I should share it on the podcast.
All right, be careful. I have no idea what you're going to talk about. It's probably me. Dealing with my husband was the hardest part.
No, I would say the person who was still there doing what they always did, the way they always did it.
Right.
And then
the systems weren't making any difference to one of our staff members at all.
Right. And if anything, it was just making it worse. So that was the difficult part, because you're still in those first 30 to 60 days. You're also trying to assess, you just met these people. And so you're trying to assess, well, is this person able to learn? Can I train them in this system? Do they have the capacity to learn this and execute it or not? And you want to give the benefit of the doubt because they have historical knowledge, they have relationships with the customers, they've been the one on the phone. So that was definitely my biggest stressor, was personnel and testing that, So let's try training this, and then the pushback and the fear that come up. This scares me. Why are we doing it this way? So it's like, okay.
Yeah, and it's tough because you're. I think we had both hoped we were not looking forward to any staffing changes. The only thing that we were looking forward to and planning on was that the owner was going to stay for 30 days to help.
Right.
And he wasn't there really to work a lot. It was just, hey, I need you. I'm going to need you when I need you to fill in the blanks and answer the questions and help me understand the background, because there are contextual relationships that, they're working on something when you take over. Now you're responsible. Hey, well, when you talk to that guy, what was the story? Oh yeah, wait a minute. I've got some paper here. I've done this quote. I talked to him. Here's this stuff, but we couldn't get this from this supplier.
Yeah.
So I outsourced it over here to try to get it here. I've been waiting for this to come in. I kind of dropped the ball, but yeah, that kind of stuff. You expect that with the owner, but you really don't want to stir the pot with the staff, or at least we don't. I don't know about other companies, but I would say most buyers of a business aren't. The staff really want to get nervous about it, and I get that. They're worried about how things are going to change or whether they're going to lose their job. But frankly, if you're an employee and you're doing a good job, you're the last one that anybody wants to see leave. I mean, that business owner is that buyer is just hoping that everybody will be steady Eddie. They're not looking for high performance. They're not looking for heroics. Nobody's got to be a Superman or Superwoman. You just show up, don't call in a lot. Just be normal and, help us keep things consistent and then help us improve it as time goes by. It's no big change. The only ones that really have something to worry about are the ones that are misbehaving. And,
Right.
we had one in particular. Well, in time, we had a couple that first year that had kind of found a thing. The owner's a little bit older, not paying real close attention. And they were one person in the office talking to the owner, but then they were out in the field doing their own thing.
Right. And I think we've touched on it several times in this call, but maybe calling it out is worth calling it out. It's one thing, it's almost easier to picture and do the systems and the operations and see what needs to be done and do it. The art of it is the people, for all the reasons that you were just saying, is because you don't want them to leave. And they are worried about their job. They're scared to change, as you addressed. And that's normal. But then something to not overlook, and that we both worked really hard at, was how do we meet these new people that we just met with respect and, I guess, win them over, but not just build that relationship so that they're okay. All right, everything's good. And then they are comfortable and open to the changes that we're making to the business and trusting that it could be better. So that is an art.
When you look back at it, just you saying that right now is making me think we probably could have pegged it within a week, because there's some staff. We haven't been there for a while now. Still some guys I love. We've got one of our staff we've got pools in our neighborhood. And of course the company's going by here. And one of them, every time they go by, they're honking to say hi. I would say at least 2/3 of them were on board right away. May have been a little skeptical. It's like, you sure this is going to work? I don't know.
Who are these people? Are they for real?
Yeah.
What's it going to be like?
But it took no time at all. And I think that was because we were both all in. And I think if you are all in, really, don't just think you are, but I mean, if you're getting there before everybody else gets there and you're leaving when they leave, and you too, even though you did work in the office for a while, but most of it was from our home office, to give people an idea, the scale of this, we had, I think, 11 trucks total, probably 6,500, 7,000 gallons of chlorine storage and 1,000 gallons of sulfuric storage. So it gives you an idea. We had a chemical shed that we had all of our bulk chemicals, the big stuff in. But so that gives you an idea how big the business was. But they were the staff that stayed anyway. I was still sweating bullets over 60 days, 90 days later. They were pretty much the same the whole time. They're like a little skeptical at first, but they're like, "Hey, you're here early. Yep, it's our business. I want to make sure everything's going okay. You need anything? You got everything you need? Yeah. I think. Oh, wait a minute. Hey, this truck started knocking a little bit yesterday. I don't know if it's just the gas we're putting in it or." Okay. All right. Good to know. Something else, whatever had happened. I tried to meet them, all of them, when they came in and when they left. And it took no time for them to I think, say, all right, these guys are all right. They're just trying to make, they're not causing me troubles. They're trying to make my life easier. They're interested and they're working. And once they got that message, it seemed like almost everybody was good with it.
And plus you went out. You went out on the routes and you went out on repair work and you actually got your own hands dirty or wet, whatever you want to say.
Yeah,
but you weren't showing up with, the shirt that you have on now. You were showing up ready to clean a pool or jump in and help. And you naturally like doing physical, hands-on, problem-solving, fix stuff, kind of stuff, and that earned a lot of respect with the people, because I knowing that the owner isn't afraid to dive in and help cover or work and learn,
right,
made a big difference too.
And that now with us having our brokerage, you doing what you're doing, I'm doing what I'm doing. There are a lot of buyers out there that are treating pool service business purchases like a private equity purchase. So this podcast isn't really speaking to them a whole lot. They're going to have to buy a bigger business that's going to have someone that's staying, the steady leadership.
Has management staying.
Yeah, has management staying. So the employees don't really notice a lot of difference other than the paycheck. The title of the paycheck has changed. But there are so many ma and pa pool businesses out there that mom and pa work in the business some.
Mm-hmm.
They're the steady eddies that make it work. And when you buy it, they're not going to be there. And to me, it's a great industry, and that's a great way to buy a business. From a route up to being big enough to have a full-time manager that does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great niche. So
Yeah.
as a broker, I'm getting a lot of calls from investor types.
Mm-hmm.
The Cody Sanchez, what is the acquisition entrepreneur
Mm-hmm.
kind of mentality that, you get out there and you look at 100 deals and you can buy one. I talked to one Friday this last week, and young guy out of middle America, and middle management, big corporate company.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking for a business, but he's not really looking to, he just wants to write a check,
Yeah.
and wants to watch the financials. And how long have you been looking? Oh, about a year. Have you gotten anything closed yet? No. I've tried on 3, but missed out. And it's tough. I mean, it's tough to do it that way. If you're willing to get your hands a little bit dirty, then I think the sky is the limit of how fast and furious you could grow a pretty substantial company, because you're the rainmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And if we were younger, we could have done that. And, we've had that conversation multiple times, 20 years ago, if we'd run into this. And of course, the software wouldn't have been what it was. And who knows?
I don't know.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe not.
Maybe. But you did bring up something, that's one type of buyer. The other type of buyer is what I'm seeing with a lot of my clients is it's a great family business. It's a great family business where mom and dad started it, and then the kids, that was their summer job, and then they grow up, and not all of them, want to, but there's one or two. They're like, I have some clients that their daughter is, I know it's a daughter, is probably in her 30s. So she went to college, got a corporate thing, and then was like, no, this isn't the life I want. I want to be back home. So she ended up coming back, and now she's taking over the pool business because it's profitable and it's family run. So there's a lot of opportunities there from different angles, depending what you're looking.
Yeah, everybody can win. And actually, as parents selling it to your kids, which not a chance that's going to happen in our case. But,
no,
our kids are both very entrepreneurial on their own and have their own businesses that they're doing that have nothing to do with this. But it would be a great way to legitimately sell your business.
Yeah.
In this industry, anyway, at this level, you can sell that business to a family member at a fair amount, for the same amount you'd sell it to anybody else, and get your cash out of it through financing and helping your family member finance it. And within 2.5, 3 years, they're golden and doing great. You couldn't wish much more for yourself or for your kids, because it's an industry. It's not like a retail industry where mom and dad are just getting by and they want you to take it over, but it really doesn't pay very well. And there's not a lot of equity in, they're leasing their space. The only thing they've got is the inventory that they've got built up. They don't have a customer list. This is a fabulous industry compared to some others. So
I mean, monthly recurring revenue. It's the Netflix model in the pool service industry. Yeah,
and it's just cash flow. Assuming you're buying a business that's okay, cash flow day one. But it's work. I mean, it's not free money. You got to show up to work. But anyway, we've kind of gotten off the beaten path here. But we wanted to talk about what it was like to get into it. It does come up a lot. I know that we'll have some buyers that will probably stumble into this video and want to know what they're looking forward to. So that's what we really wanted to kind of concentrate on today. And so I think that's about it. Anything else you'd want to share from your perspective, Sharon? You obviously have countless clients that you're working with on the pool service software and QuickBooks integrations and accounting, bookkeeping stuff.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
I don't think just to underscore what you said earlier is that it's really incredibly helpful to have a person on your team that has skill sets similar to mine. And I run into that, and that sounds bad, but I run into a lot of typical people sorry, that did sound bad, but typical people that want to buy a pool service business are not people that want to spend a lot of time with software and a laptop, because they're attracted to the type of business it is. And you don't think about that part being a big part of it. So my point being is that most clients coming to me are because they're missing that piece and they're looking for the solution. So being able to go into this business proactively and knowing okay, I'm going to need, either I'm going to have to do it myself. This is a component of the business, or find somebody that is their strength and their happy place, that they like to be at the computer a lot, and they can help set up that system and maintain the system when things go wrong. Well, so that's just good.
Let me jump in there real quick, because a lot of your clients are decent sized pool companies, and they have the employee to do that, but that staff member doesn't have the skill set for it yet. And you spend a lot of hours every week working with clients, staff members that are doing this work.
Yeah. Training, helping them get set up, and then training them how to do it.
So they don't have to, as it relates to you, your staff don't have to come prepackaged with the specific skills. They just have to come packaged with the capacity to learn them. And then that's like one of the primary niches of your business, is working with those staff members. So they can come in and show up and say, okay, what do I need to do? All right, well, first let's look at what's your pool service software? All right, let's look at that. Let's look at QuickBooks. Let's get those two integrated. Let's look at how your categories are set up in your classes, and how we're going to do this P&L. And let's look at how we handle these transactions. So you're helping a lot of people do that. You don't really, and they can learn it on their own too. And you've got a class.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A little plug there. Sharon's got an online, if you don't want to pay for the straight up consulting for her by the hour, she's got a class that they can take, so they can just pay for the class and go through this, and it's all online. And so far, I think everybody that's taken it's loved it. So it's a nice gateway in if you want to do it that way. So anyway, enough of that. So I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. It's been fun talking about what it was like to get started up. Going forward in these, we'll be talking about a lot of categories. We'll get into the weeds more. Sharon mentioned a lot of things. I mentioned a lot of things, and future podcasts will start to focus more on very specific things. So it might be how you set up classes in your accounting software. It could be how you onboard your staff and what those position documents look like that you have them do. It could be marketing, advertising, money, leadership, customer fulfillment, lead generation, lead conversion, all those things that we had systems for all of those things in our business, which really did help it ramp up super fast and help the bottom line a lot. So future podcasts will concentrate on more specific things like that too. And if there's anything in particular that you would like us to talk about, just leave a comment and let us know, and we'll try to get back and cover those in a future podcast. With that, my darling wife, fabulous job. Love doing this with you. Thanks for being here, tolerating me and my laugh. You come with I was really wanting to riff on she comes with a particular set of skills. What's that? Liam Neeson, remember the movies? Like, I have a particular set of skills that I will bring forth on this project. So that's why I was laughing. I was thinking about that movie and that line, and I'm like, trying to think about, all the jokes that I can bring. Yeah, she's got skills. So anyway, all right, we'll let everybody go. Thanks for joining us on Route to Freedom, and we'll see you next time.